Over the last few weeks, I have been battling a horrible cold. While stuck in bed, just scrolling through Pinterest, I stumbled across this pop-up Easter cross card, and it was too good to pass up. While I was still pretty sick, I did make up this template, but now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I want to share all of the steps with you, as well as a few little tweaks that I've made along the way. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video, and I'll show you a few more examples using this same pop-up design for another occasion. Hey everyone, it's Lean from ColoradoLean.com. Welcome back to the craft room. Let's go ahead and talk about the papers that we're going to be using today. I have a piece of 110-pound white Recollections card that I'll be using for my card base. For the pop-up element, I'm going to be using a piece of 110-pound brown cardstock. This is from the Coffee and Cream paper pack, also from Recollections. I have two little pieces cut. I have a little die cut from a Spellbinders Nestability set. And I printed my little sentiment from the computer. So I will set those aside. And the pattern paper I'll be using today is Always and Forever by P13. I believe I received this as a free gift from a scrapbook.com order. It is a 2020 copyright date, so I've had it for quite a while. This is an 8x6 paper pad. I really like it. It's a very heavy pattern paper. And even on the back cover, there are some cut aparts. But I'll do a real quick flip through for you. They have the same pattern probably 3 or 4 times throughout the entire paper pad. And again, on the front cover, there are cut aparts that you can use. And I have chosen these two patterns to use for today's card. Let's go ahead and get started with our pop-up element. I will bring in my Tim Holtz Guillotine trimmer. I did make one change to this portion of the card. The original cutting guide for the pop-up element is 5 inches by 5¼ inches. And I changed that to 5 inches by 5 inches. I also want to say that I did not obviously come up with this design. I have seen this particular pop-up card all over Pinterest, and I have not been able to find the original designer. So if you do know the original designer, please drop a name down in the comment so I can give credit where credit is due. So the first thing I want to do for my pop-up element is cut this to 5 inches by 5 inches. And now I will bring in my Martha Stewart scoreboard. And we are going to score this at 1 inch, 1 7/8, 3 1/8, and 4 inches. So again, the scoring is at 1 inch, 1 7/8, 3 1/8, and then 4 inches. And I will have all of these measurements listed on the corresponding blog post at ColoradoLean.com. Let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. On the first score, we're going to go to the front, and then we will burnish that down with our Teflon bone folder. And then we will fold in the opposite direction. And then we will fold the same way on the next score line. And then we will score opposite. So when we're finished, we will have a shape that looks like this. So in essence, we're going to do a valley fold, a mountain fold, a mountain fold, and a valley fold. I'm going to bring my original sample back in, and you will notice here that there is a white mat and a pattern paper layer. One of the tweaks that I made, and this, depends on your pattern paper and the color of your pop-up element, but I have decided not to cut the white matte layer. So on the corresponding blog post, I will have measurements for the matte as well as the pattern paper layer. But for today's card, I'm going to cut my pattern paper to this larger matte measurement. I am going to move my teacup aside and bring in the Fiskars trimmer so I can get really good 1/8 inch cuts. With these two pieces, the first thing I'm going to do is cut them to the length that I need, which is 4 7/8 of an inch. Which is right here. So for our two different pattern papers, the idea that I have is I will use the butterfly paper on the two outer flaps as well as the two side pieces. And then I want to use the yellow for my cross. So to do that, I'm going to start with a piece that is 7/8 of an inch. And then I need a piece that is 3/4 of an inch. I need another piece that is 3/4 of an inch. And one more piece that is 7/8 of an inch wide. Now you'll notice on my pattern paper here that it is colored a little bit darker on one side than it is on the other. And I think I want this darker side to be on the cross. And I will trim this to 1 1/8 inch. And in this case, I am going to use the measurements on the right-hand side of the cutting blade. So we will go 1 1/8. For the cross arm, we do need an additional piece of our brown cardstock. And this will be cut at 1 1/8 inch wide. By 3. And I believe that is where we are. Nope, not quite. Don't even know if I am in frame on any of this cutting. And I do apologize for that. My head is still full of cotton. So for the pattern paper, I need a piece that is 1 inch wide by 2 7/8 inches. And that should be all of our cutting. Let me go ahead and lay this out for you so you can see what we'll be doing. So we will have our butterfly pieces here, and then our cross will be centered here. And I think that's going to be very pretty. I do want to make sure that this particular pattern goes the correct way. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there is a text on here. It's incredibly light, so you can't read it, but still, if you were to look at it, you could tell that, well, that's not going right. To adhere this down, I'm going to be using art glitter glue. I do want to ask you guys a question. I am finally coming to the end of a ginormous bottle of art glitter glue that I purchased at the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo in 2018. And I've been seeing a lot of crafters switch from art glitter glue to the Barely art glue. So my question to all of you, which one do you prefer? Do you use art glitter glue or the Barely art glue? Did you switch from one to the other? Which one did you switch to and why? I am very curious to know what the advantages are to the Barely art glue. That just seemed to, I don't know, it just seemed to hit the market and everybody switched. So yeah, let me know down in the comments which is your favorite and why. I am really curious to know. I have my pattern paper all glued down. And I honestly, I don't remember if I mentioned to you that the original size for this pop-up element is 5 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And then on the 5-inch side is where you make your score lines. This particular one here, my original sample, is 5 1/4 inches tall. The reason I decided to cut off that 1/4 of an inch was because I wanted a pattern paper mat or another colored cardstock mat to separate the pop-up element from the card base. So that's why I changed this particular element to 5 inches by 5 inches. So in case I forgot to mention that before. Now let's go ahead and place our cross arm. And this will fit perfectly across these top 3 panels. I don't think I'm going to measure that. I think that'll be pretty easy to look at. I'm going to place my art glitter glue just in the center, and then I will line this up. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and put our little text on here. This is just printed off my computer from Word. I don't have any Easter font or Easter sentiments. So I definitely need to remedy that. So if you know of a stamp set with a really nice Easter sentiment, drop that down in the comments as well. And now I'm just going to glue this to my cross. I will go all the way out to the end, but I do want to just kind of stay, pretty much in the middle of that. Let's go ahead and move on to our card base. As I said in the beginning, this is a 110-pound white Recollections card. This is 7.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall, and I scored it at 3 3/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead and fold that up. Now this card will still fit in a regular A2 size envelope, and I will show you that at the end. Or if you're adventurous, you could go ahead and make an envelope for this to fit inside of. I am going to find another sheet of this yellow paper. There we go. All right, so my mat is going to be cut down to 5 1/4 inches by 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to use my score tape to adhere this down to the card base. Again, I am going to use some score tape, but I'm also going to use some art glitter glue as well. And that will give me a little bit of extra wiggle room. Let's go ahead and add a little bit of art glitter glue on top of our score tape. Again, this will give us a little bit of time to move our panel before the score tape takes hold. And I'm going to fold this, and I'm actually going to line up my right-hand side. And then I will push down on the left-hand side and adhere that down. And then to get our second side, let's get that glue off of there. Okay, then I will remove the backing from the score tape and add more art glitter glue on this side. And again, I'm going to fold my cross down, and then I will lay my right panel down. And here is our completed card. I did go ahead and glue in 2 pieces of the pattern paper on the inside. And that just, it kind of helps stabilize it a little bit more. I want to show you that it will fit in a regular A2 size card. You just fold the cross down like this. And it fits in perfectly. And then your recipient just needs to straighten up the cross and set it aside. So this is the one we did today. I want to show you a couple more that I have made. So here is another one that I did, just to show you that you can still use the pop-up element, but you don't necessarily have to make it a cross. So for this one, I cut three little Easter eggs on my Cricut. I cut the grass from the This Calls for Confetti Forest Landscape Silhouette add-on die set. And I just cut this from 2 different colors of green cardstock. The sentiment is printed off of my computer, and I did a little bit of ink blending for the panel background as well as on the top of the eggs. So there is that one. Keeping with the Easter theme, I followed another tutorial where they showed how you could place this on a regular 4¼ by 5½ inch card base. And what they did was they used a edge die. I believe the lady used a lacy die. I don't have a die that would fit this particular space, and the only edge punch I have left is my Fiskars. So I decided to cut 2 mats with the edge die. And then this adorable little Happy Easter bunny is actually a cake topper that I found on Creative Fabrica. I will definitely link that for you down below. I sized this little bunny down to, she is 3⅛ inch wide. That's almost too small for these letters. I ended up having to cut the letters 3 times to get enough for this particular card. However, this too will fit into a regular A2 envelope. The bunny just folds down and fits perfectly inside the dimensions. And if you don't want to make an Easter card, you could make a birthday card. I absolutely love how this card turned out. I printed the sentiment on my computer. The flowers are the Ultinew Flower Delight stamp set that I used in one of my last videos. I will link that video down below as well. And then I colored the flowers with Prismacolor pencils, and I used Gamsol to spread the color out. So these are made with the original directions. These 3 cards here, I modified the pop-up element to be 5 inches by 5 inches. This one is the original 5 inches by 5¼ inches tall. So this morning, while looking through Pinterest to find the video for this particular card, I ran across another card, the same pop-up element. However, Susie Wood designed hers just a tad bit different so that it would fit perfectly on a 4¼ by 5½ inch card without having to add extra frilly bits. What Susie did was she cut her pop-up element to 5 by 5 inches wide by 5¼ inches tall. However, her score lines were 1 3/8, 1 7/8, 3 1/8, and 3 5/8. So the pop-up is not nearly as tall, but the same amount of cardstock spreads across an entire card base. I almost wish I had seen this one first, but I think all of them are beautiful. I hope you enjoyed making this pop-up card with me today. Whether you use the original measurements or adjust them to fit a standard card base, the result is always a beautiful and unique card to send to a loved one for any occasion. If you give this a try, I'd love to see what you create. Let me know down in the comments which version you'll be making. If you enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss my next video. Have a great week, and I'll see you back in the craft room real soon. Bye.